The 411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
Hello, and welcome to the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. I'm Beverly Taylor. A government agency promoting the necessity of keeping biological fathers in the home says children without those biological fathers are at a higher risk of poverty, pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, behavioral problems, dropping out of school, and even going to prison. And my guest today says if we really want to improve our society and our communities, we need to focus on the reunification of the family. My guest is Dennis Walton. He is the founder of Made Men Worldwide, and you may know him from the documentary Milwaukee 53206. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the 411 Live because we have a lot to talk about, and we're focused on fatherhood. Why do you say that the reunification of the family would solve so many of our problems?
Well, I mean, first of all, if we're going to be honest about how we repair our society, it starts with the family. And if we look at, in many ways, strategically, how the family has been divided, there's a lot of things that have come from that specific circumstance where we can see, just so much systemic dysfunction that exists in our communities. The absence of a father, the absence of a father being present to help bring balance to the entire household, to the entire family, to help balance in the learning of the children. And then the importance of a male's influence as well as a female's influence that makes a child whole, but also makes a family complete. So if we're going to be honest about repairing our society, we have to be honest about what it takes to repair the family, because the family is the first institution. It's the first community that you know. And if that institution is not correct, then it makes it harder for individuals to succeed outside of the institution of family.
I totally agree with everything you just said. Made Men Worldwide, it's similar, but an expanded version of the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. Which you were instrumental in, why do you think that organization and the new one, the expanded one, why are they so needed?
Well, I mean, when you look at organizations like the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative, you first have to understand that an initiative does not last forever. Something grows out of an initiative, and I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to work with the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative, and out of the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative grew Made Men Worldwide. And the institution, the organization is important because, we were able, since we've been doing fatherhood work and really focusing on the institution of fatherhood, we've been able to uncover some really, significant depth as it pertains to the importance of the father, and also, the lack of resources that fathers have that prevent them from becoming complete or prevent them from having the success that they would like to have. And organizations today typically don't focus on the needs of men, and when you look at most organizations, they're serving either the woman or they're serving the child. But when you talk about how do you service men, that's still a very new reality to our society, because traditionally when you look at men, you don't look at them as needing help. The image of a man is supposed to be a person who has strength, a person who has pride, a person who has ego, a person who does not ask,
right.
And in many situations that has caused the suffering of men, that perception, and society not understanding how to support men properly.
And you also have to have if you're going to have an organization focus on that, you have to have an organization that is welcoming for the men to
Yeah.
even come to it, because that's a huge
Hmm.
step for a man, for a man to ask for help like that, with
Yeah.
something so personal.
Hmm. Well, yeah, the thing is that, of course, trust is a factor in any circumstance as it pertains to your personal needs. And no one wants to just entrust in someone their shortcomings or their failures or where they need help. And in most instances, men don't want to do that. So you have to have an organization that understands how to cultivate the necessary relationship with men based upon what their needs are. And it can't be uh, the typical organization that is collecting data or taking you through all these different administrative processes, because the work with men, just like any human being that's in need, it's a very intimate work, and as you start to sit down with individuals, fathers in particular, and you start to peel back the layers of what their needs are, there's some pretty in-depth stuff there. And you want men to feel comfortable that they're not being taken advantage of, or they're not being just used to collect data, but they really can receive assistance that'll help them become better providers for their families.
So if we have some men listening who are fathers who are thinking, I want to be a better father, I want to know the tools to help me be a better father. What are you offering them?
Well, we offer, there's every father has every father's situation is different,
Mhm.
you know. So we first offer them that one-on-one, that counseling to do an assessment of what their needs are, and when we talk about what does it take to be a better father, for every man that means something different. So finding out what that is for that individual, helping them to define what their goals are as a father, and what their needs are that'll help them accomplish those goals. That's the first thing that we do. We sit down and we help men to understand exactly what direction do you want to go in and what will help you get there. And once we do that needs assessment, then we can start working on, some of the other things that we have to address as far as men learning that being a father is a skill, being a parent is a skill. And it doesn't, in many instances, when you have children or when you start your family, you don't go get the Father for Dummies book. You don't go get the manual and just start reading a manual on how to be a father.
Right.
A lot of times, life experience is what learns you. So sometimes you have to get men to understand that just because you have a certain experience from your upbringing, that doesn't mean that applies to the world of today.
That's a good point.
And just helping to conversate with men to where they can start to understand that today's aspect of fathering, you have to evolve, and you have to continue to grow your skills as a father, because again, the nature of parenting and the nature of family has changed so much.
Give us some specifics. Give us some examples of the needs.
Mhm.
Not all fathers would have these same needs, but some examples of the needs that fathers have.
Yeah. Well, I think one that stands out the most is that traditionally, we don't look at fathers as nurturers. You know, when you see a father, in most instances, you see a father who is he's this provider, he's this protector, but we never get the opportunity to really explore that fathers are nurturers, and we don't, and being a nurturer means that you have to have a certain level of compassion,
Mm.
a more in-depth level of understanding. And in many instances, it's hard for men to connect with being a nurturer. And that need is very important because, again, we have this outdated perception that every man is this hardcore individual or this just go to work or disciplinary. But when you're in your families, with your children, with your families, you have to have a softness, you have to have a kindness, you have to have a compassion, and you have to be able to show love. So many men still need to know that it's okay to be a nurturer. It's okay to have a softer side of yourself when you talk about how you're cultivating your family, how you're growing your family. And that's something that's a skill as well.
Do you have fathers who might come and say, I'm having trouble just communicating with my kids?
Yeah. Yeah. And communication is a skill,
Yeah.
so we go through various aspects of what it means to be a good listener. There's a certain in our fatherhood classes, we deal with the art of communication and how with your family, and many times men power over their family. They feel as though in order for them to be successful in their families, they have to have the power over their families. But what men what we've learned is that in order to be successful, a power over situation is a circumstance where someone loses. And in your family, you don't want anyone to feel as though they're losing. You don't want to get into a circumstance with the mother of your children and she feels defeated, or you get into a conversation or argument and you feel defeated. Or your child feels as though you've just dominated over them and they feel defeated. As a father, how do you use your position as a father to empower your family so that you have balance in what your needs are? And when you talk about communicating, that's a different style of communicating, not to power over, but to look at every situation as a circumstance where everyone can win. If you have to discipline your child, that doesn't mean that you do it in a way where that child is down and out, but you help your child to understand the importance of why you're disciplining them and how it works for them. And that's not just grabbing a belt and starting to whoop them.
Yeah.
Those days are outdated. So the listening and the communication and being able to have a conversation and a patience with your family becomes critical today.
Have a lot of teaching moments. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about communication and you mentioned the mother of the child because as we had talked before, I'm also a mediator and I do some mediation with family court. So you have the dynamic of the father and the mother of the child and the whole thing. And a lot of times I have to step in to say who takes priority here. And that is the child. So it's like the two of you can't lose sight of that. No matter what the relationship had been between the two of you, the child is the most important thing. And the health and well-being of that child. And they need good relationships with both parents.
Right.
So
they
go ahead.
No, I mean, I totally agree with that. And again, parenting is a skill. And a lot of times parents learn how to parent as they go, as they move forward. And many times, your style of parenting came from your parents, and if you came from a place where your parents were dysfunctional, then a lot of times that transfers into your style of parenting as you move forward with your family. If you came from a family that was a healthy, nurturing family, a lot of times those skills will transfer. But in most instances today, people have to develop the skills to be able to cooperate with each other and co-parent effectively,
Right.
And again, all of these are things that you have to develop the mindset for, and there are processes that can help you to get there. So in many instances, we're parenting and we're raising our family with this ego, or a lot of times parents have this brokenness within themselves, and here they are trying to raise a child, you know? So when you look at how do I repair myself? How do I grow myself? How do I grow with my family? You know, then now that's when we start to see the selflessness, you know, and making sure that the needs of the child and the family are before the needs of your personal self.
Very good. You got to put aside.
Because
You have to put aside that thing of, this is the way I was brought up, so it was good enough for me, so it's good enough for you. Have to throw that mentality out.
yeah, yeah, you know, I mean, I used to have to go pick the switches off the tree
I did too.
and take them back to my mom, you know, and she would bring them up, and you know, I get a whooping out of this world. But if you try that today, it probably won't work out as well as it did for my mom.
Absolutely not. Hey, stay with me. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and continue our discussion. Stay with us.
Every day he's hungry for something. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then it kind of starts to work itself out.
Show some respect. Show you give a damn. Show the world how it's done. Show them that when your community needed you the most, you showed up. Mask up, America.
Welcome back to the 411 Live. My guest today is Dennis Walton. And Dennis, I wanted to ask you, are there myths about fathers, possibly absent fathers, that maybe there's more to that backstory as to why they're absent?
Well, I think in any circumstance, if a father is absent, there's a backstory to it. There's a backstory there somewhere. No matter how dysfunctional, no matter how disconnected, no matter how the perception of how bad this person may be, there's always a backstory to everyone's circumstance and everyone's situation. But I think in many instances, there's an unfair backstory, you know, about men who are struggling and doing everything they can to be in the lives of their children and to be a part of their families. But we don't understand the actual obstacles that are put before men. Or we see these obstacles, but we don't apply them to the circumstance of men, or we don't allow men to, there's no excuses for men. You know, if they're not there, they're automatically looked at as this person who doesn't care, or this person who's this deadbeat dad. And that's just not true in a lot of circumstances. That's not the case.
I know that you do work with people who are coming out of jail, and they've been in jail for some years, and they're coming back, and they want to, reestablish their relationship with their children. How do you help them with that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'll answer that question, but I'll tell you the interesting thing about what I've learned about fatherhood.
Okay.
I've worked with men of all races. I've worked with men from all different backgrounds, whether it's wealthy men, poor men. I've worked with incarcerated men. I've worked with men who are, Fortune 500 company owners, who are all fathers. And the unique thing about being a father is that if you can be the owner of a Fortune 500 company, right? Mm-hmm. And be a father. And if you come home from work and you find that your child has committed suicide.
Mm.
And in many circumstances, the men who are corporate and who are the most successful, they're having the most trouble with their families, just like a person who's incarcerated. If you have that individual who's the owner of that corporation or that company, and he comes home and this child has committed suicide because he's neglected the family or he's had to work too much and he hasn't been able to pay attention, he's no different than the father who's incarcerated that just found out that his child got shot dead in the street.
Mm.
Right then and there, they become equal. They've both failed as a father. And you have both of those circumstances that happen every single day in the lives of men. So I think, again, the institution of fatherhood brings men into a balance to where, regardless of what your background is, you're going to need assistance with your family, or you're going to struggle in some capacity where you need an outlet or you need someone to help you. As it pertains to the men who are incarcerated, they are very much more challenged, because in many situations, people are incarcerated based upon being a victim of their circumstance. A lot of people are incarcerated because they're trying to feed their families, in many instances. So you have men who have went to prison solely because they want to take care of their family and be a provider. And when you have guys who have been in prison for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25, 30, 40, 50 years, and they're coming home in the year 2020, after doing 25 years, after doing 30 years.
Cultural shock.
This may be a person who went to jail when his child was 5 years old, and now he's done 25 years, and now his child is 30 years old. And from the time that his child was 5 years old, those 25 years of prison time that he did, he owed child support the whole time. So now he gets out of prison and he owes $120,000 in child support. And out of the $120,000, $75,000 of it is interest that's owed to the state. So now he has to get out, and he has this stigma that's attached to him. He has to reorientate himself to be able to integrate back into society and re-enter into society, make all the necessary adjustments from the time that he went to jail in 1985 or 1992, and realize, how does he survive in a world of 2020? And then as he figures out how to survive, he has to work through the system to try to get employed. He has to reacclimate himself, redevelop his skills, his interpersonal skills, his communication skills. Now he has to go and get a job, start paying down that debt, and to take care of himself. But because he's a felon, he has this stigma that's attached to him.
Right.
And it becomes that much more of a challenge for him to get employed. But at the same time, he's still accruing this child support debt and this interest. And now he finally gets a job, and the job is a transitional job. And the transitional job starts at maybe $6 or $7 an hour.
So he stays behind the curve. He stays behind the curve. Yeah.
It's $10 or $7 an hour. And when he gets his check, it's 22 hours or $38. Right. And it ends up putting him into a circumstance that's setting him up for failure. And men are experiencing that every single day.
Every single day. Okay. You mentioned something earlier, and you were talking about kind of that introspective that men do, checking at themselves and, what their mindset is and all this kind of thing to help them to communicate with their child's mom and all of that. When we talked earlier, you were mentioning they have to have a balance in their lives. Can you speak a little bit more about that and how important that is?
As far as the men having a balance in their lives?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are areas you can't be deficient in areas. You have to know where your deficiencies are in order to have balance. So in today's world, the stress, your mental health is something that's really, really important.
Yes.
You know, everyone's stressed out. Everyone's burdened with the times that we're in. And knowing how to do that mental assessment and know how to do that self-care becomes critical, you know, to checking and making sure that you're getting to a place where you have a clear mind, or you can de-stress yourself in the proper way. So that mental health check is a big factor in bringing balance to your family and to your life. But also the simple things: your diet, your exercise, your rest, your ability to be creative and express yourself, knowing how to not being afraid of your full range of emotions and being able to explore them in a healthy way, but then also being able to have that spiritual place for yourself that brings you in balance with something, that lets you know that there's something greater than yourself out there as well. So I think, you know, you have to look all the way across the board, from your mental, your physical, as well as your spiritual as well. And men have to know how to assess themselves in those areas, and where there's a deficit at, they have to know how to replenish themselves. And many times we don't have that. We just have to keep going on and on and on, one circumstance after the other, and we don't take the time to properly assess ourselves and give ourselves the space that we need so that we're functioning correctly.
Very good. So, I know that you at Made Men Worldwide would help men develop the skills to do that, right? To get in
Yeah.
balance, to assess them. So if somebody is listening and they're thinking, you know, I need some direction from this organization, how would they go about it?
Oh yeah, well definitely. We're on. You can find us on Facebook. Our website is currently under construction, so it'll be coming about over the next several weeks. Our new website will be evolving. But again, you can simply call my phone number, or our phone number is 414-698-9905. Again, that's 414-698-9905. Right now, you can find us on Facebook at Made Men Worldwide Incorporated, and our website will be coming about as we restructure it over the next couple of weeks, where people can really see the new work that we're doing and preparing to do for 2021.
Dennis, is it ever too late to connect with your children?
No, it's not. It's not. You know, sometimes it, as challenging as it may be, at times, you have to focus, you have to envision the success, and not envision yourself not being successful. It all starts in the mind. It all starts in where's your focus at? If in your mind you're defeating yourself and you're saying you can't get it done, you won't be able to get it done. But if you can continue to envision the success and work on yourself and keep putting that effort forth, you can eventually get to that place where your relationship with your children is healthy, and it's something that brings balance to you and your family.
I like that. That affects all aspects of your life. Good advice.
It does.
Dennis Walton, our time is up. It went fast. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for the work you are doing with Made Men Worldwide. We will look for that website, which is under construction. But I'm sure that after men hear you speak today, you'll probably get some phone calls, because I think your organization is greatly needed. And I'm so glad that it's here, it's available, and you're out there. So thank you for all that you do.
No, thank you. And I just want to say to all the fathers that are going through it, you know, you may have seen your child in the last, 5 months, 6 months. You may be going through court. You may have a domestic violence situation that you didn't do, and you're going to court over and over again. You may be going through family court, where everything is highly emotional. and you're challenged, but just stick with it. You know, that's what I would encourage all fathers to do. Stick with it, learn how to get through that process. And eventually you're going to come out on the side where the relationship with your family and with your children is going to be intact. And for those, again, who are having those challenges, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, because the kids are worth it, right?
Yes, they are.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of the 411 Live. We are a nonprofit organization, so if you'd like to help us out, please go to our website, the411live.org, and you can help us in that way. We have many podcasts, so we welcome you to kind of check those out. But until next time, thank you. And this is Beverly Taylor for the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.
Thank you.